I love playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's so fast, crazy, and easily one of the Hedgehog's best games. Unfortunately, we won't be looking at the Genesis version today, but instead at its 8-bit counterpart on Master System and Game Gear, specifically focusing on the Game Gear version. There's a lot of differences in this one from its counterpart. Tails no longer follows you around. This one-player experience has Tails immediately kidnapped at the beginning of the game, and Sonic is tasked with saving him from the clutches of Dr. Robotnik. Even the zones in this game are different from the Genesis version, which is nice for those who want a new Sonic adventure. You go from caves to the skies, lakes, and a zone we've all come to be way too familiar with. Rather than stick to Sonic traditions, something the new Sonic games would really benefit from, Sonic 2 on Game Gear gave Sonic unique ways to traverse the stages. The first world lets Sonic ride on a minecart. The second world gives Sonic a hang glider, and I cannot ride this thing to save my life. Seriously, I always get a bit of air and then go straight down. It seems to control like the cape from Super Mario World, but it never gets any air. It just feels like I'm fighting gravity all the time. The third world lets you hop along the water like a skipping stone. World 4 has a bunch of springs, which we'll get to later. World 5 has these spinning balls, and World 6 has these tubes, which we will also get to later. These new additions are pretty much a miss. They often don't work how you would like them to and feel more like obstacles to overcome than a fun power-up. Visually, the game looks pretty impressive for a handheld game. Plenty of color and diverse locations. Only thing that sucks is that on the Game Gear, the screen is cropped to fit the sprites in, and it practically ruins the experience. Smaller screen doesn't have to mean a terrible experience. Sonic 1 was also downscaled to fit on the Game Gear, and that game was pretty fun. Sonic 2, unfortunately, has so many moments where you are blind to what is going on around you. For example, the Stage 1 boss gives you less reaction time to dodge the cannonballs, and a game where speed is a requirement, running into enemies with no reaction time is pretty much the definition of this game. You'll be constantly running into enemies you did not see coming. What a pain in the ass. Zone 2-2 has you hopping from cloud to cloud. Can't see where you're gonna fall? Too bad. It's not as bad an issue because there is a lot of spaces where you can land, but it is an issue on 4-3 where you get the spring gimmick, and the game knows this. 4-1 is awesome. You get one of the best Sonic songs ever. And so many rings you'll be well stocked with lives for the bullshit that comes ahead. It's as if the developers knew that they messed up. The gimmick of this stage is you gotta bounce over all these springs to get to the boss, and boss stages don't have any rings whatsoever. The problem is that you can't see where you're going to land. When I first played through this stage, I used up all my lives blindly trying to figure out where to aim on my way down. Once you figure it out, it's not too hard to get past, but initial players will fail multiple times. If it weren't for the generous lives of 4-1, you wouldn't be seeing the ending anytime soon. In the scrambled egg stages, you gotta deal with these tubes. Holding the direction you want to go will send Sonic speeding through the tubes. Pick wrong and it will make you start again. But in some areas, you fall into a pit of spikes and die. Again, the smaller screen makes reaction much harder and disorienting. It's a mess of a time. And if you somehow manage to muscle through this game, you'd better have found all the Chaos Emeralds hidden throughout the stages, or else you're greeted with this ending that implies that Tails is dead. God damn, Sonic 2 doesn't fuck around. And as you probably guessed, getting the Chaos Emerald is no easy feat. Unless you know where they are, odds are you're going to pass them by. In the first zone, you gotta stick to the uppermost path, but with less reaction time, messing up is easy, and it's not a fun experience. Sonic 2 was an ambitious project. Cramming in an 8-bit console Sonic game onto a handheld is an impressive feat, but one that Sega shouldn't have attempted. The game is flawed, and I would not recommend getting this game when Sonic 2 on Genesis is so easily available on so many platforms, both new and old, and it's a much better experience. It's not a bugged out mess like Sonic 06. It plays well, it's just that the crop screen handicaps the player. It's a game you find yourself wishing you could like, but can't because the screen is actively working against you. It is literally your greatest enemy because more often than not, you'll die of blindness. And the Master System version is much more manageable because of the more screen space. It's not the best designed Sonic game. With Sonic 2 for the Genesis having raised the bar to the series' greatest heights, it's hard for Sonic 2 on Game Gear to stand out. As an 8-bit game on a home console, it's not that bad. Unfortunately, the same can't be said for the Game Gear version. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Game Gear, only for the most die-hard Sonic fans.